In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern. I have obviously not uploaded a video in like 3 or 4 days. I had terrible allergies and then my Wi-Fi stopped working. So they hit back to back and I was not able to upload 4 days. It was very frustrating. I know a lot of you were commenting and checking in if I was okay. I had to make that post on the channel to let you guys know everything was good. So yes, everything's good. We're back on schedule now and hopefully the Wi-Fi stays up. So a lot has changed. First off, we're expecting colder temperatures in the east now overall, basically throughout the upcoming pattern. And I don't think it'll be too significant. Obviously, cold air this time of year doesn't necessarily mean freezing. So keep that in mind. But a lot of you have been dealing with upper 60s, 70s, and if you're like here, down in southeastern Virginia, it might have been even 80s, but we might be moving back into the 60s and 50s mostly, and for areas further northward, that might mean 40s. So it is going to move back to a chillier pattern, but again, not frigid unless you're very far to the north. There is snowfall chances far to the north as the lows will be below freezing, highs will be closer to freezing, so there will be some snowfall chances as well in this colder overall pattern. And you might be wondering why this is happening, and we see this positive PNA setting up in the west. This is the opposite of what we've dealt with through this warmer March that we just ended. We can see this warmth extends up into Alaska as well, and this all just kind of aids in forcing the cold down to the east and central states here. So we see that even on this 6 to 10 day outlook, which runs from daily emojis right out the gate, April 6th through April 10th here. Very chilly, and looking at the precipitation, this will kind of spell some drier weather for the Northwest into the upper Midwest. This is because with a high pressure system in place out here and overall warmer temperatures, we really aren't, we're seeing the storms kind of move around this area way up into Canada or below. So this area is kind of getting blocked out, and that really is the main storm track that brings storms up into the Midwest and Great Lakes and Ohio Valley oftentimes. So we see more activity actually to the south where these storms are being diverted. Maybe more nor'easter type storms will be possible here in the first half of April. Again, probably not much in the way of snowfall with those, but wind and rainfall could be a factor. We do see a little bit of above average precipitation near Maine as well for 2/3 of that state, which some of that may come in the form of snowfall for up there, of course. Looking at the 8 to 14 day temperature pattern, not a whole lot changes. And if anything, we actually get more intense with this. So this is the 8th through the 14th of April, and we see this positive PNA is still looking very healthy and again extends up into Alaska. And once again, this forces the cold air down into a lot of the central and more specifically the eastern states in this specific example. Looking at the precipitation, we see that this dry weather does expand eastward, and we really deal with 90 to 95% of the nation dealing with below average precipitation. So we move from a relatively active pattern, lots of severe weather, many strong lows moving across the nation, to a much more boring and quiet pattern and really, really dry. Despite the overall storminess, I don't know, what you guys specifically in your town dealt with, but for my area, it actually ended up being quite dry for March. We had many thunderstorm chances, but a lot of them just didn't pan out. But areas to my north, like Richmond, even Williamsburg, Virginia, into the Delmarva, and southern Maryland, northern Virginia, I think they did a lot better as far as precipitation and actually saw a lot more thunderstorms throughout the month of March as well. But for early April, this is not looking good for my neck of the woods where we've already been drier. It looks like the first half of April is also going to be quite dry. So let's move into some model guidance and take a look at all of this as we just kind of move towards this evening. This is a little bit of a example of the opposite of what we're dealing with now, because again, those outlooks start around the 4th. I think it was either the 4th or the 6th. It should be the 6th, actually. So the 6th through the 10th. Before that, we do have some activity. Major severe weather actually coming up. 985 here between Kansas and Oklahoma. This is exactly where all of our lows that have been very, very impactful this season have mostly started out. We see snowfall and rainfall out west. Sierra Nevada seeing snowfall. Cascade seeing snowfall. Rocky seeing snowfall here. Quite a bit of activity. Some thunderstorms already flaring up this evening here for the plains and Midwest areas. And for the most part, we're dealing with a negative PNA right here, where we see the colder temperatures diving down the west and this warmth is being ricocheted up into the south central and southeastern states. A little less extreme than it has been. Again, we moved out of 80s. A cold front just came through, and I think today is expected to be a good 10, maybe even 20 degrees cooler than even just yesterday was. The warm weather is going to make a brief comeback, though. And as we move towards Wednesday here on the 2nd, tomorrow, it's very clear that we have a big time ridge in the eastern states, and overall, still a colder and snowier pattern out west. This is when we expect major severe weather in these areas, very significant once again. So we're going back to back with these severe weather events. Your low ends up here somewhere over northern Iowa, some snowfall for the Dakotas into Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin here, and that could be significant to the north of this low. Overall, looking at the dynamics, we have a high precipitation warm front here, and then a high precipitation cold front. So this warm front is funneling that warm air to the north here, out ahead of that cold front. And this is allowing for humidity and warmth to build, and that's creating the instability, which is really leading to this thunderstorm development. As always, we will look at the Storm Prediction Center towards the end of this video, so we'll get some more insight into the more specific chances of severe weather later on. Looking at Thursday, though, a lot of this does move to the south and east somewhat. We see the south central states up through the mid-Atlantic dealing with some severe weather chances. It's still cold in the west, still warm in the east here, so we're still dealing with a pattern like this, and we're even still seeing snowfall for the Rockies here. I want to take it towards the 4th, though, which will be Friday, and what we see is that a lot of the activity kind of retreats back to a lot of the southern plains, lower Midwest, and parts of the deep south, where there will still be a severe weather risk for Friday the 4th here. A big time indication that we're changing the pattern here is this warmth starting to build for the West Coast. Again, that is the beginning of a positive PNA, which will completely flip the pattern upside down. I know I always emphasize the PNA so much, but guys, you just cannot deny it, that it changes, and then all of a sudden, everything around the nation changes. So it is a very strong indicator of our weather. By Saturday, we see actually a low developing here down by Arkansas. I suspect we will have a deeper south severe weather risk here around this time frame, Saturday the 5th. We do continue to see showery activity to the north of there, and even some snowfall for the lower Four Corner states, and even some areas of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, perhaps. Clearly a building positive PNA by this point. We can literally see it, and this cold is migrating to the east. As we move towards Sunday on the 6th, we see more of that same effect. So positive PNA here. Now the cold is diving southward for the kind of like central states into the Midwest and Great Lakes. We have a low here with a cold front. So that cold front is pulling the cold air eastward. Probably still a thunderstorm, if not even severe weather risk here by Sunday the 6th. And as we keep going towards Monday overnight, we see the southeast is holding on to some of those thunderstorms, but that cold air is moving in a hurry. And by the time we reach Tuesday the 8th, this is what we are left with. Very warm conditions for a lot of the west, and this very cold, especially compared to what we've been dealing with. But even when comparing it to average, this is very, very cold weather for Tuesday the 8th. Now, by Wednesday the 9th, it doesn't look quite as bad. We do see an up and down pattern. But the one thing that stays true is this positive PNA holds on. So I suspect more cold air is coming, even as we head towards Thursday the 10th here. It's very, very clear now that we have this warmth pushing up the west. And as a result, this cold is forcing its way down into the east again. Although, again, there's warm air over the east. So it is going to be a little bit of a back and forth. But when we look back at it, it should be overall colder. I want to keep going towards Friday the 11th here. I'll draw out your jet stream, but it's clear we have a trough here moving towards the eastern states. Although the east coast is not too shabby here on the 11th. But this west is really, really warm compared to normal and much drier. Saturday the 12th, that cold, stormy weather continues for the east. Even into Sunday the 13th, it's really a lot of the same. Again, nor'easter type storms. I'm not seeing a true nor'easter here, but it's cool and it's really rainy and probably windy for quite a few spots in here. So messy, cold, chilly weather here. as we move kind of beyond the 8th, 9th, 10th time frame. Monday, that just continues, Monday the 14th, and then Tuesday the 15th, still chilly. And then a bit of a question mark here as we move towards the 15th, 16th, where the pattern can do a lot of things. Also, we're beyond hours 300, so we are in the very far range. So the odds of this model even having a really good handle at this range is relatively low. So we could deal with some interesting changes, perhaps as we approach the midway point of April. But again, between today on April 1st and into the midway point of April, it does appear like a colder pattern is going to prevail overall. GFS model, we're really going to see a lot of the same. We see this big storm move through, and that really transitions the cold air eastward. We do see some snowfall for the Midwest here, as you can see. And then as we move towards Monday on the 7th, this is the morning hours, very early morning hours. We do see some of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast seeing some snowfall, but we don't see that on the European model. It is still 6-ish days out, so please take it with a grain of salt. We keep going, and we get this brief little warm-up around the 9th, and then another cool down there right around the 10th, 11th, 12th, before we really warm up Sunday the 13th. Monday the 14th, before cooling back down for the 15th. So again, back and forth here. I will say that beyond the 10th, the GFS model looks a little warmer, I would say, than the European model does. But both overall are calling for colder temperatures than really what we even dealt with in March for the most part. So it's going to be a big time flip either way. The total precipitation here on the European model is really lowering out west. We have seen a significant drop off there, and that is due to that positive PNA, which is, again, bringing higher pressure and it's deflecting those storms. The east, though, looking very active, but once this storm that is starting today, later today into tomorrow and the next day, is done, I suspect we will be left with also below average precipitation in the east as well. It's definitely something to watch for. The anomalies here say it all. Below normal in the west, above normal for most of the east. Pretty cut and dry, not too hard to break down. Looking at the total snowfall in the European model, as a result of less precipitation, we actually end up with less snowfall, but still plowable. I mean, especially the Sierra Nevada there, and then the Rockies. Cascades a little bit lacking, but still snowfall in the mountainous west. We do see Great Lakes, upper Midwest, and Northern Plains snowfall here. And then for areas in the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, up into the Northeast, it is going to be those areas very far to the north or very high elevation areas, and it isn't a whole lot in either case. The GFS model does show quite a bit more for northern New England, which wouldn't come as a surprise, but again, it's mostly mountainous areas, mostly areas that are just used to this much snowfall happening throughout the fall, winter, and spring, so not too big of a story there, in my opinion. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks here, we're starting with day 1 today on Tuesday, April 1st. We do have an enhanced risk for Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri already today. We'll break it down by color code, though, so let's start with the general thunderstorm risk area, which is in lighter greens, and that is where we expect general thunderstorms, as the name suggests. But these forecasts are really, really tricky, and you can expect that there's still a possibility of really bad thunderstorms and even severe weather in these areas that don't necessarily expect it. So still heed every watch, warning, and advisory, especially at this point in the spring when dangerous weather just tends to happen. The two darker green areas, one for California and then one for a lot of the plains and Midwest, is going to be your level 1 marginal risk, where we do expect isolated severe weather to happen. The yellow area there will be your level 2 slight risk, where we expect some more scattered about severe weather to occur. And then your level 3 enhanced risk is in that orange area, again, for Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. And that is where we expect things to get a little bit more numerous, a little bit more widespread with those severe weather reports. Now, for tomorrow, on Wednesday the 2nd, we have basically the same thing. It just moves a little bit further eastward and a much bigger enhanced risk. So I think this is another huge day for severe weather, Wednesday, April 2nd, where we have states like Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio all included in this enhanced risk. It's very, very large. And don't be surprised if we see a moderate upgrade there where we get a level 4 moderate risk. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't. Wouldn't be surprised if we do. Looking really bad for tomorrow either way. And then day 3 here, we don't have an enhanced risk, but we do have the general thunderstorm risk, the marginal risk, and the slight risk that is quite large on this day as well. Now, there's also a couple of extended day outlooks to go over, so let's start with day 4, which will be for Friday on the 4th. We see Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and Illinois, all included in this yellow area, which is your 15% chance of severe weather region. That translates to a slight risk, so we can expect these areas will be in a slight risk once they're at day 3, at least by days 1 or 2, but regardless, we expect that level of severe weather there. For day 5, the next day on Saturday, April 5th, we expect this to move a little bit towards the southeast for Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky will be included in a new slight risk for that day as well. And then after that point, we don't have any outlooks as of now, and that is when things should start to slow down with the colder air moving in an overall drier pattern. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload mostly every single day unless there's problems like we had the last few days. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.